And 3, and 2, and 1. It's March 29th, 2020. I'm Jeff.
Who's your bear? That's right. I am your bear.
I'm Damon.
I don't brew the tea, I just serve it.
And that makes me Gary.
Don't hurt nobody with your bad self.
Well, welcome to Cubs Out Loud, the Bear Podcast of Indeterminate Length, episode number 548. I knew what number it was. I just couldn't think of it for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's time in the month, basically where all the bitches start getting horny. But besides that, okay, so this month has been kind of interesting. At the beginning of the month, I had family come into town.
Hey.
Kind of. Because as much as I tried, I couldn't get my parents to not come to my apartment to start criticizing me about it. Which probably is a good thing, but still, I already knew what their criticism was, so I didn't need to hear it. And I'm still hearing about it. Despite the fact that they made their trip to Florida to watch Twins game. That went well. And I went home, still texting, emailing. I'm ignoring because I don't want to hear it. You gave me some cleaning supplies, great. But you really didn't help at all. Besides criticizing me. Anyways. That's a thing that I really should talk to a therapist about, but anyways. Also during that time, and this was kind of like, I might have mentioned this last month, but I was sick before COVID. Before it was COVID, excuse me. That's supposed to be a joke.
God. So
me having issues, and then thanks to $25 in using the Teladoc app. They said yes, continue the Imodium, but that whole drainage thing is probably causing part of that. Let's try to dry things out with a little allergy medicine because you've got allergies. So, and it seems to have worked pretty well. So, I'm better. So,
yay.
I do not have COVID or any symptoms thereof. So I'm good. And of course, because of COVID-19, they their not realization that they probably should have a backup plan in case of something like this should happen, where we need to actually work from home for something that we can actually work from home for. They didn't have the laptops to give all of us. So that we can work from home. And I am currently working from home, which is great because it means I've got more time before work. And they gave us a Chromebox. So I got a little setup on a tray table over by the couch. So I basically can work from the couch. But I also have a big old monitor. And everything. So, and in addition, I don't have this on here. Oh, by the way, this is great because I love working from home because I don't like going out. Me being my introverted self. So I've been trained for this the whole time. Other people are going crazy. I'm like, I'm good. But other than that, that's what's been going on for me. Damon, what's been going on with you?
Mostly been dealing with the new normal. as most of you are aware, thanks to our partially due to our COVID-19 podcast. There's a pandemic going on out there, y'all. So
What?
yeah, yeah. So I have been working from home. I'm able to work from home. I'm happy that I am able to work from home. That's one of the benefits right now. There have been not so great things, which has kind of sucked. But for the most part, I've been fortunate to have a job that allows me to work from home. The new normal is now getting up, getting a shower like I normally would, but instead of going into work, I literally go downstairs and go into my office and I work there. So then I have lunch and then I finish work and then I turn off the computer and then I come into the living room and then I open this computer and I do other stuff. So it's been interesting. I will admit I had a little bit of a meltdown last week, just because everything. I am not Jeff. I am a bit extroverted. I enjoy social interactions with people. I'm definitely a social butterfly. If you guys don't remember, so that was part of what
Really?
I was having some difficulties with. Yeah,
You don't say.
Yeah. Anywho, so with all of that, it took, I had a moment and I've gotten through it. I'm just now getting used to it. Fingers crossed, hoping this will, change soon, but who knows? And I think that's something I think we're all going to have to mentally adjust for, or mentally prepare for. The things that I used to do that were part of my, social, interactions, like the chorus, we're not singing we didn't sing our concert, which would have been next weekend. So that's a week from today. We would have been doing our spring concert, but that's been canceled. We would have had rehearsals for that. Those have been canceled. The church that we rehearse at is closed until April 30th. So there's all those things that, you're used to, bars, restaurants, whatever, that you're used to doing things for. And you're kind of like, ah, shit, like, what can you do? So we've been home and it's been okay. I will say it's been okay. I will admit, I am glad I have someone here. Jim's here. That's one of the good things that's about it. I don't, that there is someone else living with me. And, we're not necessarily socially distancing because we share pretty much everything. So, my hope is that this will resolve soon, but I am also realizing that might be a little while, and I have to get used to, and I think we all have to get used to, like, things are probably going to get postponed and canceled, or you're not going to be able to do the things you want to do, but it's okay, because there's a reason to do why we're doing all of this. And I know it's not the thing you really want to have happen, but it is the thing that needs to happen. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's been me. Hanging out at home. Whoop, whoop. Gary.
Yeah. So there's a theme to today's show. Y'all hadn't caught on yet.
Well, at least the first part.
Yeah. There isn't anything in my life right now that isn't revolving around COVID-19. So, yeah. Work is primarily, all about that now. The stuff I got hired for is kind of set to the side. It's not being ignored, but it is not the priority.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And anybody who's probably followed me on Facebook is they probably unfollowed me, or not unfriended me, but unfollowed me, because 80% of my content is pretty much just about like CDC and state and local government, like stuff regarding COVID-19 and social distancing and all that
I
kind of
find
stuff.
it informative.
I do as well.
Well, that's the goal, but
Other people might not feel that way.
I'm enjoying the content that you're producing.
So, yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because like one of my friends who I don't see that often commented the last time I saw them in person, or actually maybe talked to them online, was like, "You're a super user." And I was like, "What?" And this was last year. They're like, "You post a lot on Facebook." And I was like, "I do?" And I was like, "I don't think I post all that much. I think I might share some stuff like often." And my thought is, well, if you're in one of the core groups that I share things to often, then yeah, it would probably seem that way. Like, but to the broader like audience, I don't necessarily share that much, especially to all friends. But that has changed with things of late. So yeah. Yeah, I'm just because of the job at the Department of Health here locally, I'm pretty much on the front line and seeing and hearing and handling things involved in the reporting of cases and the research that's going into that. And, you know, the people around me are fielding calls from the public and answering stuff. And so, yeah, it's a bit of a busy, you know, nest there. And so it's been very educational, we'll put it that way. So I'm blessed in a way that, like, you know, as one of my best friends pointed out this weekend on a call on Friday night, that I got this job when I did, because otherwise I too would be working from home and would be like kind of relying on whatever comes across the wire, so to speak, or the media, which is a little dicey. Only because there's just so much information to retain and process, and more importantly, to understand, and kind of sort out. So yeah. And things happen so quickly, like it's difficult to like stay on top of it, even for us, like at the Department of Health, like, you know, so the president says something, the state governor says something, you know, it's like the county executive, you know, there's these like three levels kind of above us. And so, you know, and then you get phone calls and people are asking questions about, you know, well, what does this mean? Da, 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 da. So, yeah.
Just make sure you're not listening to the president, you're listening to the experts.
I would say when it comes to this matter, because it's about like people's health and their welfare, and keeping minimal as possible the mortality rate from COVID-19, it would be best to follow the science as opposed to what other people have opinions about. For example, as I read this morning online, which is disturbing and makes me smack my head or shake my head, whatever, a gentleman who I believe was 50 or 55 last night in New Jersey got visited by the police and served with 2 accounts of not doing the withstanding local city ordinance, because he had a 50-person party in his apartment because he was having a COVID party.
A what?
Oh yeah.
A 50% party?
Yeah.
50-person party.
50.
Oh, person, not percent.
50
like,
people.
What the fuck is a 50% person?
No.
Got it.
50 people, 50, in a 550 square foot apartment. And the reason why the cops came is because they were noisy.
God.
Oh yeah. And then they had to enforce the ordinance, you know, about like not collecting in groups, which my whole thought was like, did you arrest his ass? And more importantly, like the people on the front line, like the police showing up, like, do they have personal protective equipment, like to walk into this kind of a situation, to know what to do to split all these people?
Everybody had respirators on.
And just silly, but it's weird to think of things like that. And I get it, y'all. I understand. Okay. I would love to have people over and hang out and whatnot and do things and like all of that fun shit or go out to other people or whatever. But like, no, not right now. Like that is the like everything that they're saying, everything that is being said is kind of saying don't.
Right.
For one reason or another, don't. And like just don't. Like there's not like a but what about no. Just don't. Like
right.
We're doing this podcast right now. We're in different states, and it's all there. And our listeners that are with us live are probably in different areas. And this is kind of cool because we're able to do this, on a regular basis. But like there's not really a reason.
So what I hear is you're saying we've been social distancing for years.
Yeah, totally. Jeff even said it himself. He's been an introvert for years. He's been preparing for his entire
life.
Right.
like this is what I've been preparing for.
And some people have learned that are introverts that they're not as introverted as they thought. That like going to a job, being around other people in small dosages or whatever is comfortable for them. And that's being a challenge, Other people are more like, in this case, like Jeff, it's like, I'm cool with being home all the time. So yeah, there's people doing that. Like in the case of the New Jersey thing that I was just reading about today, it bothered me because I was like, but you're in your 50s. Like this behavior is expected to be exhibited by someone who's in their 20s. Understandably, when you're younger, you think you're invincible. You don't have as many health issues. You don't have these considerations. You may not have life insurance. You may not really care about medical coverage. Like, because, I admit when I was in my 20s, I was like, bitch, I got my whole life ahead of me, and I just was cool with whatever. And, maybe not taking things as seriously. And now that I'm beyond that, double that, I feel very, very differently about that. So that's why I was flabbergasted. I ended up telling my coworker, I was like, can you imagine dealing with this? Because the work that we're doing is, so the thing that I'm doing is called contact tracing. So when you have an individual that is tested positive, we refer to them as an index, and then everybody they've been around in close proximity becomes what we call a contact. And so we have to trace who all those individuals are. We have to let them know because they've been within that space. They have to do what's called self-quarantine and self-monitor for 14 days, while the index has to isolate for 7 days with no contact with anybody. So, well, it's a little bit more than 7 days, depending on the circumstance. But so this is all the stuff that like we're kind of handling. And I'm thinking, this guy has like 50 people. To be fair, I think the article said it was technically 47. So don't scream at me if I got my number wrong. But anyways, like it's multitudes of people. Like, and you have to get in touch with all of them, and you have to tell them. Like, by the
one
way,
person.
Like, right. Like if one
That's
person
party.
in that whole grouping is positive, but that wasn't explained in the article, understandably, most likely they all got together because they didn't think that any of them were positive. But you don't know that. Like, it is possible currently for someone to be a carrier and not be symptomatic. So that's why we're doing the flattening the curve. That's why we're, sheltering in place or staying at home orders, like to minimize that, to not overwhelm the healthcare system. So, it's, and so anybody who doesn't happen to follow me on Facebook, but was to go visit or find my Facebook profile, I put a post out last week. I don't know what night it was. I have like a 2 or 3 night a week thing where I can't fall asleep. Like my brain doesn't shut off. I had too much caffeine during the day. Like I get too much on my mind. So I ended up putting a post out about the seriousness of the matter and talked about the statistics. And what I was busy focusing on is the mortality rate. because I was like, this is not good at all. Like, if we're looking at this percentage, this is how much of the U.S. population will not make it and survive. If we're lucky and blessed, it'll be a lower number. But even so, it's still a hell of a lot of people. And it's that kind of stuff, that I was trying to put it out there because I didn't know how else to explain to people. Like, you just kind of don't maybe understand. And a cousin of one of my parents shared it. And when you share stuff on Facebook, like, the original poster doesn't get any follow-up notifications on it. At least I don't. In my case, I wasn't. But I knew they had shared it, so I just kind of went and checked it out. And so I was seeing the comment thread of the people that they know. And people, was saying about how, like, that it was misleading because of, like, the percentage and this and that. It's presuming too much. I was like, so I kind of, like, I decided to, like, not debate, but, have a conversation in the comment thread with them about this. And their whole point was, like, I'm taking in the totality and not everyone's going to be affected, to which I, conceded, yes, I'm taking into account the entire U.S. population, because the reality is it's going to spread everywhere. It is not possible to stop it from getting everywhere, in my opinion, at this point, just because it's a virus. It's like a bacteria. You can't see it. You don't know where it is. And we don't live in a current state of society where everything can be sanitized, period. It's just not possible. So, like, we can do all the contact services to help mitigate the spread. We can, wash our hands for 20 seconds using soap and water. All of that is great. But the reality is, even if you go shopping, you grab the trolley, the cart, whatever you call it, the buggy, and you use the wipe to wipe the handle. But you may not pay attention to the fact that, like, when you're walking through the store, that you grab a different part of the cart that you didn't wipe down. Like, there's just, I discussed it last night. I was at the grocery store and I watched this guy, and he's with his family, and he's walking along the deli section, or the meat section, and he takes his knuckles and he's wrapping it along the edge of the glass partition where there's, like, a metal capper. And I'm watching him do this, and I was like, oh my God, like, he doesn't even, I don't think he even realizes he's doing that at all. And I'm not saying that it was a contaminated surface. I don't know if it was. Like, that's the whole messaging, is, like, none of us know for a carrier. None of us know where the contact services, all of them absolutely are. That's why, like, Mythbusters and all of these things that you may have seen online are doing these, they did this stuff where it was like there was invisible light, black light testing and stuff to show how things can be spread, and you wouldn't even know it. So I'm just kind of like,
5-second rule is a myth.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when it comes to contact with other individuals, and the reason why we all are focusing kind of on 6 feet, which I know is confusing because some things say 3 feet. The reason for 6 feet is because that's 72 inches. We're talking about a really decent measure of space in which it is highly avoidable to come into contact with any particulate, because it's a respiratory tract virus, meaning it, like, gets into the system and it usually affects the respiratory system, and then it comes out through the droplets, like through the, kind of our mucosal. So it's kind of like the sinuses, the mouth, that kind of thing. So if anybody, like, coughs or breathes, it's not very likely to travel very far. Like, I know there was a Mythbusters video that some people were posting, and I watched it because I wanted to share it, but I didn't do it because it was misleading, because Adam is induced to sneeze on purpose. And if you guys remember it, like, there was a tennis ball on a thing that he put his forehead against, and at first they, like, gave him snuff with dye in it to make him sneeze, and that wasn't showing up on the white thing. And then they put food dye in his mouth, and then he was just, like, spitting, and it goes, like, 20 some feet or something crazy. And I was like, okay, no. Like, I am not sharing that, because that would be fear mongering. Like, to me, I'm like, all right, like, granted, something, but I think it's a little too extreme.
Yeah.
Because he's being induced to, like, sneeze and cough and spit out, like, as opposed to most individuals try to contain it. Like, not very often do I see somebody that just, like, sneezes full force out into the air in front of them, so to speak.
Yeah.
But
all right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that's, out there. And anyways, in this post, I just basically try to drill down and explain to people the seriousness of it. And until we can get universal testing, so we know where we are, do we have it? Do we not? Have we already had it? Like, do we have antibodies already in our system because we came into contact and our specific immune system per person is healthier? I personally have a standing theory that the majority of people have already come into contact with it. They just don't know it yet. And whether or not like they are in a symptomatic window remains to be seen. But I have no proof of that. But it's just kind of my gut on it is it's far more spread than anybody realizes. We just don't have the testing currently. There's parts of the supply chain that are the issue. So, in fact,
With
just on
everything
what
shutting down, that makes things more difficult too.
a little bit, I mean, there's notably some issues going on here in the country with like trying to get things, out to where it needs to go and how to determine that in a national emergency. But Abbott Laboratories was just announced, I think, on Friday that they have a 5-minute test, which is huge. Because, for example, in our state, depending on what path you go to get your testing, it will either go through the state or it will go through commercial. And through the state, we are currently getting results in 24 to 48 hours. If it goes through commercial, it could be up to 9 days because there's such a backlog. So, like, if there's going to be a 5-minute test and they're going to be able to ramp up to 1 million tests a week, that's a big deal because you can, like, that much more quicker get results, and you could know, like, what to do in that case with individuals. So I'm actually more curious about if we can, replicate and get out there the antibody test, because the antibody test will show that you've already been exposed and that your immune system's already moved beyond it. And since there's no documented cases of reinfection, that's huge, because that means like you've already been exposed. It's kind of like flu, and some other things that are out there. If your body's already cool with it, then you're good. But we don't know where we stand on that. That's why we're doing all of this social distancing and stay in place kind of stuff, because if you haven't been exposed yet, we try to keep that minimized so that people don't have like, severe symptoms and stuff. So that's just a little window into what my past month has been like. If you hadn't heard, there's also an event that I was helping put on that's being postponed for a year. So that's been exciting.
Oh, so much fun, I'm sure, Gary. That has been amazing. Oh my God, I can't imagine.
Well, it's also difficult that kind of got shut down. Because if they're not a life-sustaining business, they're not supposed to be open. So, yeah.
So there's that. Yeah. Anyway.
So that should all be resolved relatively quickly the next couple of days. So, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I wish I had more to say outside of that. I mean, I'm doing a little bit more cooking, and unlike you guys, I am my job is considered essential to the greater public, obviously, for public health. So I get to go to work every day. Which is, I keep telling people, it's kind of like my life hasn't changed. Like I still get up and I leave and I go to work and I, swipe my badge and I go and I log in at my office and I do these things and I'm around these people and, now all the conference calls and everything.
20 minutes later, wash your hands.
Well, like, they stepped up the sanitization at work, which is great. Almost every day we're being provided with cleaning wipes for like our keyboard and phones. We have a sanitation crew that's coming around and like doing all the contact services every single morning and every evening. I mean, it's very heightened. One of the local distillers is supplying hand sanitizer by the gallons to specifically the Department of Health.
There's a lot of what's in hand sanitizer is alcohol.
Right. And just for folks as a quick, like, kind of lesson, when you distill it, you make an alcohol. Typically, there's a couple phases to the process, and the very first and the very last is not what you actually keep and use for consumption. So let's say if there's like 5 phases, the first and the last, like those 20% and 20% end up being waste. And distillers figured out very early in the process. Actually, I found out a lot of businesses, they were just pouring it in bottles and then using it as a spray sanitizer in their own business
Oh.
because it has such a high alcohol content.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got smart. I think it was one in Portland that originally started. I think Drew had posted about it, where they were like cleaning at work, and a customer. This is like over a month ago, and the customer was like, where's that from? And they were like, oh, this is kind of our non-usable runoff or whatever. And the person was like, can I have some of that? And they were like, yeah, I guess. And so they kind of thought about it, and they realized they could make sanitizer out of it. So they actually, like, I think add guar gum and something else. It's only like 3 or 4 ingredients. And then, they were putting it in little bottles. And they have to, and the big thing is all the distillers, they pretty much have to give it out for free. They're not legally allowed to produce it. Like, they're not allowed to manufacture it for sale, I guess the way I should put it. So a lot of them are putting that stuff, out there. And one of the local distillers here in Erie decided that they were just going to give all their supply to us. Not that we were in desperate need, but it's just nice because we got an email this past week that was like, hey, if you need some and your bottle's running empty, let so and so know, and then they'll get it refilled. I was like, alrighty then. So that's an example of, like, there's a lot of businesses that are doing all sorts of things. Like I'm trying to think of, like, Christian Siriano, and I can't remember the other gentleman's name. These fashion designers are, like, busy making masks. They may not be compliant and as far as, like, the N95 level, but there's something. So there's tons and tons and tons of industries and different things that are doing stuff. And that's the part that I'm trying to focus on and, be happier, better, more optimistic.
Yeah.
In the day-to-day things.
Sure. And thanks to our live listeners in the chat talking about things that they're doing. I saw Owen mentioned, he works at a grocery store, and they're talking about, like, they spray the carts and baskets and wipe down the counters every day, which is good to know because, grocery stores are still staying open because they're essentially they're essential business, providing goods and foods and goods and services, and pharmacies and whatnot are staying open. And, pharmacies usually are also parts of larger convenience type stores. So they also have, items available. A
lot of them are
that are not
specific hours.
Yeah.
Like things that were open till 1 are now only open till 8 here.
Yeah.
Although there are still a couple 24 hours, because I don't think we have a full-fledged curfew out yet. I'm gonna have to double check on that, but I don't think we've gotten that yet. But it seems to be pretty good. And every time I go to one of these places, I always try to make sure to thank them and say I appreciate that you're still open and such.
Yeah.
Just because I'm sure they don't want to be there in this time, so just say thank you.
Yeah,
and be
it or not,
appreciative to everybody. Just thank Gary for still being kind of on the front lines and making sure everybody is safe, fed, and because we don't want people like starving and dying because of starvation or anything for those people, and then just making sure everybody is safe otherwise. So, so we appreciate everybody. Hey, should we get into feedback?
Sure.
All right, let's do that. Gary, what's been going on over the Facebooks or Instagrams?
Not a whole lot in Facebook for us specifically, but we did get 3 new Instagram followers this month. So we would like to thank Chubby_Lover. Sounds pretty on the nose. Ho_.sm and Friday Night Thang.
Or Friday Night.
Or Friday Night Hang.
That's what I said. Friday Night Thang.
Anyways.
Damon, tell us about YouTube.
Sure. So we got a couple of new YouTube subscribers. We have SW1473 and then Sankar Samir. Welcome. And we got some comments on some recent episodes. So on COL547, which was the Landscape Relationships Part 3, Tim said, Amazing content, dude. Owen commented, God, such a good show. Fan self in sweats. Ooh, okay. And I love this episode. Communication is so important.
Yes, it is.
True. And then on 546, which was our Let's Talk About COVID-19 episode, Owen responded, commented, excuse me. Another thing is movie releases have been postponed. The film industry is going to take a bit of a hit. Agreed. And some of those movie producers are actually taking things and putting them online. I know Disney took their most recent movie Onward, and like within a couple of weeks of it being in the theaters, they're like, nope, we're gonna just put it into Disney Plus. Like, yep.
I think they first put it out in rental and like just within the past couple of days put it into Disney Plus, and then Frozen 2, which they wouldn't have put onto Disney Plus quite yet, is already on Disney, or is already on Disney Plus as well, and that was before Onward.
Mm-hmm. So yay. And then on COL545, which was our Patreon version 2, Birdie Burtface commented, should the title not be COL545, The State of Chatterbait? Great show, guys. Cute.
You did kind of go on a tangent there.
Us?
No.
Tangents?
No.
Who would have
hasn't
thought?
even happened in this episode.
We are focused.
Over in the Twitterverse, we have Sparky40439442. We got Wolffire_1, Roberto24622208, and Black Jesus.
So Black_Jesus, that's their actual handle, but their nick that they go by is Black Jesus. So that's why. That's what that's in reference to. I was like, already then.
Look, it's pronounced Jesus,
Mm-hmm.
as in like the Spanish pronunciation.
Nice.
So yeah.
So Gary,
There's a
what's been
definitive-
going on with our shows lately?
Well, a month ago we did COL 543, What's Going On February, when things were very different. Quite normal, regular. You know, we discussed, I believe Damon went to NAB. Just stuff.
You know, when
Things.
things were actually happening.
Yeah. We were not, all self-quarantining and staying in place and, wondering what's happening in the world. So 544 was the return of bathhouses, because I'd seen an article about how San Francisco was trying to get an ordinance lifted or changed that, those type of businesses would no longer be illegal. Such wishful thinking and hopes at the time. We had that discussion, and then I realized, well, it doesn't matter now. So
True.
It will again, when we get through this. Then 545, we talked about Patreon version 2.0, how we made some changes to it, starting, this coming month in the categories and that, and what that means. Then we did 546. Let's talk about COVID-19. Was supposed to be let's talk about kink. Tony Cubses joined us. We were going to talk about gear, but suddenly we found ourselves in the midst of things.
The world changed.
Little
And it
thing
was-
was happening.
Well, and the big thing, it just happened as we were discussing it. TBRU got canceled on Friday morning after it started and kicked off on Thursday. So, we talked about the whole situation with bear events and gatherings and that kind of stuff. So, and then last week, COL 547, The Landscape of Relationships Part 3, Edward Angelini Cook joined us once again for our mini-series. And I'm happy to say he'll be back again.
Because
Yay.
we always like having him back.
Well, not only that, but we're going to have a part 4. We thought we kind of covered the majority of stuff. When we very first I approached him about the idea, he was great. And then he wrote this huge outline of different things and realized we were probably not going to get through it in one show. So then we split it up. So, and then at the end of the last show, he realized there were some other things that we could still continue to talk about. So we're gonna have a part 4, which I'm excited about. So that'll be in the near future. Tony will be on soon, and we might very well split his into a couple of episodes as well. Because I don't think gear. If we're gonna probably cover some specifics about gear, I think we can't get it done in one episode because there's all sorts of stuff up there. So like we could try to do a highlight level, but if he's game and you know we can put it together, we'll do a couple episodes on that. So yeah, did a bunch of stuff in the past month. Tentatively, the plan for those that are listening and or watching is that next Sunday we're going to take a week off and we're going to do a flashback episode. So don't be freaking out. It's not like all of us suddenly got sick or something.
Yeah.
So,
which reminds me, I want to get some links set up for that show.
Some what?
Some links.
Okay.
I have some ideas, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Back to the live chat for a quick moment. Where is it at? As Lloyd said, on the plus side, the amount of gay Twitter post is exponential.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of which.
Right.
One of our conversations pre-show was about how we are all thirsty. We're not saying we can quench our thirst right now, but we are. So part of that. I mean, it's all truth.
Come on, Garrett.
I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. I knew that I was pretty much done with my drink.
Nice.
All right, it's true. Anyways, so I picked out one from Meaty Henry. And it's just him kind of rubbing his very, very hot body. He's got a beautiful beard. He's got a nice ass. Nice package. His jockstrap.
I think I've already. Yes, I did. I have retweeted this.
It also doesn't help that he's breathing heavy during the video.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it, but I did watch it.
Yeah, it is quite wonderful, and the breathing does add a certain like element to it. It adds a wonderful like element to it.
If you're a person that you know does not have misophonia, if I pronounce that correctly, and you know sound can be you know kind of sexy and alluring, the fact that he's breathing heavy you know while rubbing himself, because the thing is that he just got done working out, so yeah.
His post said, "Rub my sweaty meaty body."
Yeah,
Gladly. All up on that. Yep.
Damon, what do you got?
Speaking of sexy bodies and ass, I have I called mine Smothered by Ass, and it's Muscle Dog FF. And it says, retweet and follow if you're okay being smothered by my nice juicy ass. And it's a video of Muscle Dog FF pulling off his shorts down to reveal his butt and giving his butt a little jiggle. Yeah. And yeah, he's very sexy and he's kind of funny. I've been following him for a little while. He's hot. I'm sure he takes himself, I don't think he takes himself very seriously, which is kind of cool. And he's, he likes to have fun. He likes to show off, and he has a lot to show off. And it is Very juicy.
Follow.
Very.
That is a big old
Yep.
booty.
Yes.
Wow.
Very much so. And he does not, he is totally fine showing off, and he has a lot to show off.
Mm.
Yep. Yep. Butamus.
Oh.
Butamus. Yeah, and then, the FF, there's there for a reason.
Yep. I figured that was probably somewhere. If you want to know more, you can, follow him.
Yes.
Or at least pull him up. Anyways.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Beauty. He just has a very there's a lot there, and I'm liking it very much so.
Mm-hmm.
Gary, you got a little. There's two here.
Yeah, I put two up. They're kind of related to our main topic of the what's going on today. The first one is Joshua Parker. He's an actor out in Hollywood. I've been following him for probably less than a year now. He's a really handsome guy. He rocks a stash. And if you see him and you think he looks familiar, it's probably because you've seen him in national commercials, like that he's been in a couple of like nice national campaigns. One of them is where he's running around in the front yard, like throwing flowers, I think. Like,
yeah.
Doing some ballet-ish kind of moves or whatever. So anyways, he just posted this recently, and I think it's a gorgeous photo of him. He's not one to show off his whole body a whole lot, but I thought this was great because he, for those that like a hairy back, yeah.
He's mowing the lawn in the video. If you go to his Twitter, the first the pinned tweet is the video on Times Square. It's the commercial on Times Square.
Oh,
okay. Kind of awesome.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's busy. What do we call that?
Shaking his body and dancing around, and I love the water. Sorry. Go ahead, Joshua. That was awesome. I'm not following you.
Pandora
now I am. I thought I was.
Yeah. So I was really happy that that Joshua posted that. So
Yeah.
He's 6'3". He's a nice looking guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like how he perfectly positioned it so his hand was covering his junk.
Right? So I was like, look at you composing a photo.
Ramon, he says Ramon C. Photo took the picture, which is kind of cool. That is kind of good. That is very good, actually. I wasn't even paying attention to that. Good to know.
And then in addition to that one, I put in a second one just for giggles, which I titled "If You Sick versus Thick," because actually the full quote is, "Stay home if you sick, come over if you thick." Now, I need to give the disclaimer and say, given the current circumstances, I know that people be thirsty, and I know that they want to get their release. But please, 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 please do not hook up. As awful as it is to say, and I know that people are having hookup parties, even if they're just little twosome, threesomes, whatever, you just have to be incredibly careful because you don't know who you're going to pass things on to. That's really what this is all about. I was having a conversation last night, and it's I trust and I know my dearest, closest friends. So if they were my fuck buddies, then that would probably be different. But even so, everyone makes their own decisions. But I loved how this guy is basically saying, don't be coming around if you're not well. But if you're a thick boy, you are welcome. So And he's doing kind of like, a muscly bear pose, but he's got tats all up his arms, nice, thick, big nipples hiding under a, undershirt, with a beard and some little boxer briefs on. I just thought it was a really great, picture. I was like, alrighty then, let's hear it for, a little show off without, being too aggressive, I guess, in terms of like the sex. Because trust me, if you want it, it's out there. People posting all sorts of things.
Again, I'm thirsty.
And Chatterbait has never been busier. I'm kidding. I honestly truly don't know that, but I get the feeling
You've been busy.
In the past week, I saw a couple people that were like, "Well, I resurrected my old profile," and I was like, "Whoop!" So yeah.
Yeah. There have been a lot of. I mean, if you follow a lot of like Twitters or in porn chat, like a lot of the people that are like on OnlyFans and Just for Fans and all of this stuff, they're throwing a lot of like deals out there. Pornhub right now is free premium membership for a month, I think. So there's all those kind of things out there, trying essentially to get people, we get it. You horny, you thirsty, you want to fuck or whatever, like, but like do it at home by yourself. There's a app I follow that is like encouraging like video chatting, with someone and essentially jerk off or whatever with someone, instead of like playing in person. It's out there. I mean, it's not out there, but it's probably stuff that has been out there, and people have been doing it for years, but now it's more important, if that makes sense. It's more of a, lessening the risk of spreading anything you may have, not just, any STIs you may have, but, this on top of that as well.
Right. Speaking of STIs, one of the concerns we have at work, for those of us that work in HIV and STIs, is people at home, people sequestered, we're not stupid, people getting busy. So there is a concern that we're going to see a wave after this is over of pregnancies and STIs like ballooning and getting crazy. So as best as you can, please, 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 like still use protection, and be aware of, the sexual history of your partners that you're hooking up with, if you are hooking up. If you have access, you have the ability, if you have medical coverage and you can get PrEP, so you can get Truvada or Descovy or the generic when it is expected to come out later this year, like it would be best to do so. Because, we would like to return to a norm and keep on where we were left off and not like find ourselves like, dealing with a whole other thing.
We're already dealing with the pandemic. Let's not have a mild pandemic because of this.
Right.
Or something else. Moving on to the links. I wanted to link to Daily Tech News Show because they have been talking about like how technologies has been affected by COVID-19. And they're also a Daily Tech News Show. They do have a Daily Tech Headlines, which is kind of like a mini version. So it's been a frequent topic on it. Plus, it's just interesting to hear about tech all the time and what's new, what's coming up. But they've had an entire segment about net neutrality and things that have been happening. I got a link to the website as well as the YouTube channel where they post everything. One of the things that they informed me is because soccer games have actually sports have been canceled pretty much. Some of them have been turning to using video games to play some of their matches. So they have a representative play, and they play as their team in the game. So like La Liga had one of the teams had a derby, and they had some of the games played via FIFA 2020.
Huh.
And they had basically two representatives from a representative from each team playing against each other. So kind of like an alternative form of playing the same thing. So if they're like MLB, if there's I'm not sure if there's a baseball game that's currently on systems right now, but MLB could probably at least do some quote unquote show matches, because I'm sure they want to actually play their games, not substitute them with video games. But I think that would be interesting and at least keep some content rolling. And I know some of the sportscasters are for some of these have been kind of like trying to reconcile the difference between esports and non-esports. So I heard about that, and I thought that was pretty interesting and kind of cool. I'm like, yeah, hey, then we can continue getting. It's almost a promotional tool, you could say, in those cases. One for the video game and one for soccer players doing basically show matches. So they end up rolling all this information in. It seems like every show there's something related to COVID-19 in there and how it's dealing with the tech industry. Tom Barrett's been doing tech news 15, 20 years. He was on Tech TV, ZDTV, then Tech TV, and then he was on CNET, Leo Laporte's Twit Network, and now he has his own show as well as a show called Cord Killers that he does, which talks about like the online entertainment industry essentially, and cutting the cord and such like that. So he started the show. He's just like a couple years ago, 2 years ago, he finally got a co-host, like an official every show co-host of Sarah Lane, who's basically have the same pedigree as Tom, although I think he's been doing it longer than she has. But I think it's a very informative show, keeps you up to date on the tech industry, and they even talk about some of the laws, like they've talked about net neutrality and other laws affecting the tech industry, which you might find interesting. So yeah, Daily Tech News Show. It's only like a half-hour show. So
Cool.
Gary, unmute yourself.
Oh, come on. Can't you lip read?
Doesn't work very well for the podcast listeners.
Fish posh. Anyway, no, seriously. I have a couple of links related to COVID-19. Surprise, surprise.
Yes.
One is the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control here in the U.S. It's COVID-19 Info Basic. So there's a ton of information in it. Feel free if you want to look at it. There's another one called coronavirus.gov, which is about like the government's response and perspective. And then one that I didn't realize it existed that I think is really important is FEMA COVID-19 rumor control, which is so it's basically helping answer and address things that are rumors that are out there, like such as are older people and those with existing conditions the only ones at risk? Is the government sending everybody money? Sorry. Should I stock up on food and supplies? Should I worry about hantavirus? And they'll probably be expanding that as things come along. So I thought those might be helpful. And then there's something else that I want to talk about, which is not COVID-19 related. Yay. Well, sort of. If you're not aware, there is a blood shortage here in the U.S. For donations. And the Red Cross has been raising the flag of alarm about how they're apparently down 84,000 pints. Practically all donation drives were stopped because of social distancing and trying to mitigate community spread. So there's these campaigns underway to try to get people to donate blood. And of course, as MSMs, most of us in the U.S. are aware, we're not allowed to give blood unless you've been abstinent for at least 12 months. So GLAAD decided we're going to call out the bullshit of the ban on MSMs being able to donate blood. So I, ended up finding out just this past week that they created a petition that people can sign to basically say, hey, this is antiquated. It comes from the last quote unquote epidemic of any scale that we had to deal with here in the US. So, yeah, the goal is to get people to sign. So I put the link to it. It's GLAAD, that's GLAAD.nationbuilder.com/blood. And they are currently at over 15,000 signatures and growing. I don't even think it's been a full week yet. So if you're inclined to sign it, the goal is to present it to the FDA and basically show, all of these folks are saying shenanigans. Like, there's no reason to not allow people to donate blood. And here's the big thing that is the argument from MSMs is all the blood is already screened. It's screened for HIV and other pathogens that can be transmitted through blood. So, why are we asking questions about
else? Well, which that everyone else can potentially pass on as well.
Right.
Yeah, just throwing that out there.
Right, and so that's the big beef basically. Is people are like, what is the dealio? Why are we asking about people's sexual history and kind of holding that against them or preventing them from donating blood? So I think the standards can be changed. So yes, there still is a window period in which a person can contract HIV and not know it because it won't show up reactive on a test. So, but it's not 12 months. You can completely revamp that portion of things. To when was the last time that a person had, engaged in unprotected sex with a male, and, bring that window period way down. To address that, in terms of, and then also when was the last time a person was tested and had their results. So I think there's some stuff that can be done along those lines. But so my feeling on it is I don't know if it'll make a difference in terms of the FDA changing the ban, but I think keeping up the pressure on them and focusing and saying, hey,
You're asking for more blood, and well, while we would love to, you're not letting us.
Well, I mean, and that's just it. It says in this brief, post before the petition that the Williams Institute previously estimated that if the ban were lifted, an additional 360,000 men would likely be able to donate, possibly millions of, more than 1 million people. So, yeah, it's not small change. And I do know, and I'm not endorsing this, but I do know that some MSM lie when they donate blood. That they don't, that they're not honest when they answer about the past 12 months. Because they think that it's the greater good is more important than the policy. So, yep. That's
it.
that.
There you go. Wow.
And guess what, folks? That's the end. Plenty of ways to contact us. Let us know what you've been up to. You can pop over to our website and leave a comment on the blog at cubsoutloud.com. Shoot us an email at cubsoutloud@gmail.com. Leave us a voicemail, sexy or otherwise, at 361-COL Talk. That's 361-265-8255. Follow us on our various social media outlets at Cubs Out Loud in the appropriate place of the URL. That's Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, and of course on YouTube. You can join our Entourage chat at tinyurl.com/telegram-COL. If you would like to know when we're planning and what we're planning for our shows, you can check out our Google Calendar and subscribe to it at tinyurl.com/calendar-COL. You can get various accoutrements at Zazzle/Cubs Out Loud, so .com.uk, co.uk, .ca, .d, etc. such as a version 3 of our logo, or version 2 of our logo that Damon's wearing, or a Consent is My Play shirt that Gary is wearing. It's just some examples of what you can purchase over there to help us out. And as far as I know, they might be slow on those just because of the current state of everything. But as things speed up, it should be just fine. Back up. You can rate us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us, Google Play Podcasts, and of course on Spotify. You can find me anywhere on the internet. It says Box Set, Box Puppy, Box Cub Box. Something or other. Also, you can come make a patron at patreon.com/cubsoutloud. I totally skipped that part. And we thank our patrons so much. You don't know how much monthly. And our donate link is working at paypal.me/cubsoutloud, or you can go to the website and there's a button there that goes directly there.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, it'll take me just a brief moment to be able to pull it up because somebody gave us money.
Mm-hmm. It was Bertie McBurtface, aka Martin.
Yay!
So thank you, Martin, for using the new paypal.me/cubsoutloud link so that you gave us some money. We appreciate it.
And with that, take it out, everybody.
Well,
Have a good one, y'all.